tomorrow night. Last night, they got run out of the gym by the Timberwolves. It was so bad that the crowd at Fiserv Forum started booing. That led Giannis Antetokounmpo reacting by booing them right back.
When I get booed, I boo back. I've been doing all season. You guys haven't been with me on the road. Whenever I get booed, I boo back. That I play basketball for my teammates. I play basketball for myself and my family. When people don't believe in me, I don't tend to be with them. I tend to be against them.
Again, it'll be the Bucks and Spurs tomorrow night. Turning to the Badgers, they've won 3 straight after beating Minnesota last night. It came on a buzzer beater by John Blackwell after Minnesota had tied the game with a 3 of their own. So what was going through Blackwell's mind?
That's a heartbreaker, when he hits that. But when I started growing up, I was taught to go get the ball, keep your head up, and go get a shot. So that's what I did, and then I just went to my go-to move, Hezzy 3. And honestly, it looked good when it came off the hands.
Wisconsin's beaten the Gophers 10 straight times, getting a day off before returning tomorrow to start prepping for a visit from Rutgers coming up on Saturday.
Some of America's bravest warriors are returning home wounded. Here's one of them.
My name is Norberto Lara. While I was on a combat patrol, a rocket propelled grenade took my arm off at the shoulder. I was discharged from the Army, and I've been working with the Wounded Warrior Project since 2007. You don't have to be severely wounded. A lot of guys have post-traumatic stress disorder. Being able to share your story kind of helps you wrap your mind around what did happen over there. My name is Norby, and yes, I do suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder, but I'm okay.
Don't suffer in silence. Contact woundedwarriorproject.org.
Well, we're still waiting on news from the Packers and Coach Matt LaFleur. The two sides were reportedly working towards a deal to bring him back as coach next year, but there's been nothing since. LaFleur has 1 year left on his contract, but coaches rarely work as lame ducks. And players can enter the transfer portal for 2 more days in college football. So far, more than 20 Badgers have done so. Badgers have also brought in more than 25. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Kyle, Print.
The way I would interpret it right now is it's up in the air. And I believe firmly that most places would have a high level of interest in Matt LaFleur. I don't know whether they wouldn't hold him up and say, okay, Team X, you want him, give us a 3rd round pick or a 2nd round pick. The Green Bay Packers once sent Mike Holmgren to the Seattle Seahawks in 1999 for a 2nd round draft pick. Is Matt LaFleur as accomplished as Mike Holmgren? I would say no. Mike Holmgren won a Super Bowl. Matt LaFleur hasn't. What's the value? Is Green Bay letting him? And by the way, if you're Green Bay and you don't want to pay him, and I'm Matt LaFleur, I'd say, if you don't want to pay me, then you let me go.
We all know what type of business this is. The focus is for me, at least today, to take a look at the tape and try to figure out why and what went wrong.
This is where Wisconsin gathers to talk sports. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. The Wisco Sports Show is on the air. Now, here's your host, Grant Bills.
That's some audio of Adam Schefter this morning on a competing radio station. That was on ESPN Milwaukee. I figured, what the hell? I'm going to play it. What I love in sports talk radios when there's more than one station in town, the host will reference an interview or a quote or something that happened, and they'll say, that's from across the street. It's from the other station. I love that old-timey radio turn of phrase. The quote there from Matt LaFleur, I just needed something to go in the intro to kind of get us into the show. And that, honestly, as I was cutting it about 15 minutes ago, kind of annoyed me. I want to play you that full question and answer. I think it's Matt Steinman, Bill Huber, asked about his focus. How is it hard to focus on your team right now knowing your future's up in the air? It is Huber.
We all know what type of business this is, and the focus is for me was, at least today, to take a look at the tape and try to figure out why and what went wrong. So that's where all my focus is lied. And then as in that process, you start thinking about, all right, what are the things that we need to do to get better? So that's just where I've put all my mental energy.
I know it doesn't matter. He's still so poorly spoken, man. He just just stutters and stunts his way through everything. And also that annoyed me because I'm like, Matt, I needed to check the tape. No, you didn't. We all watched the game. We've seen that game 6 or 7 times this year. You didn't need to check the tape. Your season's over. You'll have all offseason to check the tape. So I know you're going to give a non-answer about your future, but I got to check the tape, see what went wrong. Well, your special teams still blow, and your offensive line can't block in big moments. And you went 3 and out in a bunch, and your defense can't stop a nosebleed when it matters. That's what went wrong. You don't need to check the film for that. So it wasn't my intention to react to that clip. It was just going to be in the intro, and we were going to get into the show, but I felt like I needed to hit that for 2 minutes because it annoyed me. Maybe it's Matt LaFleur fatigue. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe it's Wednesday and I'm crabby. I don't know. This is the Wisco Sports Show. My name is Grant Bills. Thank you for being here. Jesse Temple going to be here in 90 minutes. We'll talk lots of Badgers tonight as well. Really fun win at Minnesota last night in an otherwise quiet sports night. I watched a little bit of Nebraska and Oregon. That was the second game of the Big Ten Network doubleheader. Wasn't very good. Wasn't very close. So last night it was just basically for me, Wisconsin, Minnesota. Oh yeah, that's right. The Bucks played. Not that was ever a competitive game. I'll give you a couple minutes on that tonight as well. And I figure in hour number 2, we'll talk some good Badgers basketball. They've won 3 in a row, including that Michigan game on Saturday, which we haven't really discussed because we've been so focused on the Packers. So we'll hit that tonight. And Jesse Temple, Badger Connect, will be here for his weekly appearance at 5:35. Your Packers phone calls or your phone calls in hour number 2 on the Badgers. Encouraged, not just welcome, but they're encouraged. 608-321-1670. You can comment on the live stream as well. The Wisco Sports Zone app, YouTube, Facebook, my Twitter, at Wisco Grant, wherever you want to get in. I want to start with the latest on Matt LaFleur. There's nothing, I don't want to say there's nothing new. In 2026, there always has to be something new. We live in the internet age. If there's not news coming across the wire, we make news. If there's no news, that is the news. And the fact that there is no news, I think, is instructive on maybe what's going on between the Packers and Matt LaFleur's camp. Adam Schefter intimated and has in appearances, again, across the street on a competing Wisconsin radio show, and in other, appearances that he's done on ESPN. And I've read certain things as well that's basically said, yeah, they're working out a deal. They're trying to work out a deal. Justice Mosqueda wrote today at Acme Packing, and I want to circle back to another thing that he's having a hell of a week. He wrote this: it sure seems like LaFleur has a price in mind and wants the Packers to pay it. With 9 open head coaching jobs in the NFL, if LaFleur were on the market, a 5-year, $15 million per year deal wouldn't be shocking based on my understanding of where the league is right now. Now, with that being said, Green Bay is willing to commit $75 million. The industry standard is for coaching contract to be guaranteed in the NFL. For LaFleur, especially after how his team stumbled in the fourth quarter against the Chicago Bears, that is the big question. But LaFleur and his camp seem to have a good feel of their number and are comfortable holding that line. Personally, I believe it's all about money, not necessarily a 1-year spend, but the commitment to all the guarantees that LaFleur would get on the open market, as Schefter has been reporting for some time now. If the Packers wanted to dump LaFleur, that would have been a quick conversation. If they wanted to pay LaFleur's market rate, that also would have been a quick conversation. Instead, this thing is dragging out. So that's where we stand. So I'll take you back 3 or 4 weeks ago, maybe a little bit over a month ago. I do a weekly podcast with our friend Bart Winkler, and friend of Bart Winkler and friend of his show for a long time, Paul Immig, who's been on this show. He used to cover the Packers for Fox. He's not in sports anymore, but we do a podcast together, and we, kick around different Wisconsin sports topics every week. But we don't take ourselves too seriously. We're so unique in that. The Winklerverse podcast with Bart Winkler. And about a month, maybe a little bit over a month ago, I was arguing with Paul about Matt LaFleur's future because Paul was so hung up, as he tends to be, which is a great trait for this job. You need to be hung up on little details. You need to find mountains in molehills, right? Paul was hung up and said, Grant, it's important to note that the Packers aren't deciding whether or not they want to keep LaFleur. They're deciding whether or not they want to extend him. And there's a big difference there. This is what Paul was saying. And at the time I said, Paul, the result is the same. There's no difference. They're deciding whether they want Matt LaFleur to continue to be the coach or not. There's no different. It doesn't matter if they're extending or firing or doing nothing. Like they're trying to decide if he's their coach or not, and everything else is secondary. And Paul was like, nah, I don't agree at all. I think you're wrong. And I think looking back, Paul was correct. And we're going to record another podcast tomorrow, so maybe I'll have to bring this up with him. I think if Matt LaFleur was under contract for next year and one more, this would be easy. He would be back. It would be settled. There would be no questions. There would be no blurred lines. He's going to come back next year and coach, and then they'll decide after next year, which that contract situation would probably be a lot better for this team because, well, I think this team in 2025, 2026 massively underperformed. To be fair to Matt LaFleur, they did lose their best defensive player, their best offensive player, maybe their next most important defensive player, and then in the game that mattered most, the next most important player, Edgerrin Cooper. And if you look at the numbers before and after that injury from Saturday, they are stark with yards per play and success rate and all that stuff. So, yeah, Matt LaFleur certainly can point to the season and say, well, no Parsons, no Kraft, no Wyatt. Then in the playoffs, no Cooper. My kicker couldn't do anything when it mattered most. He was like 3 of 9 outside of the red zone or some ridiculous number. My stud wide receiver, my most trustworthy veteran guy, couldn't pull in an onside kick when we needed him to. Like, what? Matt LaFleur has reason to look at this season and say, flush it, give me next year, and I'll show you really what this team is about. But that's not how his contract aligns. And if the Packers and Matt LaFleur were on some sort of a Brewers type thing where it's like we have a mutual option that we could pick up. We could pay you $12 million or $10 million to coach one more year and then decide, or we could mutually agree to part ways. If that were the situation, I think the 1-year option would be picked up like that. I think the Packers would love to have Matt LaFleur back and coaching this team next year, even if it's at a substantial rate, which is, clever for this Brewers analogy because the Brewers aren't afraid to overpay Rhys Hoskins for 1 or 2 years. It's the 3rd, 4th, 5th year that they don't want to be tied onto. And I think for the Packers and Matt LaFleur, this situation is very similar. I think the Packers want Matt LaFleur to coach the team next year and could very well look to extend him after that. I think they have a really hard time right now, clearly, because it hasn't been done yet, extending him for 4 years, $15 million. So that's going to be what, $60 to $75 million when you consider, right, the additional year that would be tacked on. That's a lot of money. The difference in, hey, we might fire this guy, or hey, he's going to be here for 4 more years and 60 or 70 more million guaranteed dollars. Like, that's a huge difference for a coach that I don't think anyone is really cocksure about. I think the Packers are sure that they would like him back coaching next year. I don't think they're cocksure about 4 more years and 60 to 70, millions of guaranteed dollars. That's a big difference. I wonder how the rest of the coaching market impacts this too. I know everyone wants to talk about a trade. Maybe the Packers trade him. Well, I would always bet against a coach being traded. It just doesn't happen that often. But if you look at the circumstances of this coaching cycle, and coaching cycles are not created equal. This coaching cycle is very different than last year, than the year before, both in candidates and in openings. And if you look at the current NFL job openings, of which there are 9, I think the types of openings that are out there actually make a lot of sense for Matt LaFleur, but Matt LaFleur is currently employed by the Packers. I think Matt LaFleur on the Ravens would make sense. Offensive guy. I mean, Matt LaFleur on the Ravens might make sense for the same way that the same reason he once upon a time made sense for the Packers. Matt LaFleur, I think, would make sense for the Falcons. And there's some history there. Matt LaFleur, I think, would make sense for the Giants. He's shown that he can win 10 or more games. He could take a team to the playoffs. The Giants were just looking for any shred of credibility and any sort of competence. The Steelers, number 4. I think Matt LaFleur would make sense in Pittsburgh, right? These teams that, typically wouldn't have openings, or contending teams, specifically the Ravens and the Steelers, I think Matt LaFleur would make a lot of sense there. I think Matt LaFleur would make sense for a team like Tennessee, Miami, Las Vegas, Arizona. Arizona and Las Vegas are not trying to win the Super Bowl next year. Can we just get someone that we know isn't going to suck? Matt LaFleur would make sense in Vegas or Arizona or Tennessee for the same reason that Pete Carroll was supposed to make sense in Vegas last year. Probably not going to win the Super Bowl, but we're going to establish a floor. We're going to bring a professional. We're going to bring in a coach who's done this before. I think if Matt LaFleur was a free agent, if he was available to be hired by anyone in this cycle, he would make sense for a ton of teams. I don't know that Jeff Hafley makes sense for a lot of these teams. I don't know if the Rams, XYZ assistant makes sense for a lot of these teams. I don't know that the Giants can take a flyer on some young offensive hotshot. I don't think Miami can take a flyer on some first-time young hotshot. I don't think Arizona can do it. I think some of these openings need a guy who's bona fide and who's done it before. Matt LaFleur is that guy. I think if he was available in the cycle, as much as we poke fun and laugh at Matt LaFleur and the Packers' recent failures, of which we have discussed in detail, I think for this cycle, he might make a lot of sense. Now, next year, he might not. Or in 2 years, he might not. It just depends on the jobs, the types of jobs that are open. I think in this cycle, he's very attractive. And if Matt LaFleur and his camp are so sure, hey, man, pay us the commensurate 4 years, $15 million per, all guaranteed, because that's how it works. If that camp is so sure and Matt LaFleur and his camp won't back off of that, and the Packers truly won't let Matt LaFleur coach on a lame duck deal, maybe a trade does make sense, considering a lot of these jobs make sense for Matt LaFleur. I don't know. Then the question of, who the Packers should hire and that whole thing. But, I underestimated the economics of this. I underestimated the contract part of this. Because a month ago, this is very simple to me. You want Matt LaFleur to be your coach or you don't. But that's not really the question we're asking here. And I was ignorant to this, and I really hadn't started to think about this until this week. You're not really deciding whether or not Matt LaFleur is going to be your coach next year and moving forward or not. You're deciding whether or not you want to commit $60 million guaranteed dollars to him in 3 or 4 years, because that's his market rate. And you could say, well, do that. And then if you want to move on, you fire him anyway. Okay. And flush $45 million guaranteed dollars down the drain for him not to coach anymore 1 year after you extend him at the top of the market, which is so clearly what Matt LaFleur's camp wants. This is tricky. This is very tricky. I'm glad I'm not Ed Policy. It seems maybe like it's better for the Packers to fire that guy than to extend him the going rate. But I don't like any of the candidates in this cycle, really. They're in the middle of a window that's supposed to be their Super Bowl window. I don't really believe in windows, but you have Jordan Love in his prime, Micah Parsons in his prime, and a lot of these young guys who are popping into their primes. Can you really go with an unknown? Can you this is hopefully what you're getting through the first 15 minutes of the show is there's no perfect option. I don't think firing him is a perfect option, especially because it's already January 14th and there's already 9 open jobs. Now, if the Packers job opens today, I think some of the good candidates would say, well, wait. Now I want to go interview in Green Bay. I'm not saying they couldn't get interviews. I'm not saying it's too late, but it's certainly not perfect. There's no perfect option here. Firing him is not perfect. Extending him $60 million 4 years is not perfect when you could as we discussed Monday, very easily be back in this exact same spot next year at this time. And now your coach is on the horn or on the hook for 3 more years, $45 million guaranteed dollars, which I don't think the Packers are all about the money, but that's not good business. That's not, doesn't make any economic sense. It's a very, very, very difficult situation. And the more that I read and the more that I listen to players and comments that Mike Clemens has sent in, the more that I don't really know that this Packers current situation is tenable. I don't know that they're ever getting more than 9 or 10 wins. And I don't know that they're ever getting out of the wild card round with what we've seen from Matt LaFleur in recent weeks. I think the Packers are in a really bad spot, and some savvy moves or some savvy operations by Ed Policy and Matt LaFleur, if he's still around, could have them right back in a spot where they're contending next year. I mean, they were contending this year and they might have been a division champ and hosting playoff games, if not for a couple of injuries. But this is a really, really, really hard spot. And I don't think there's any easy solution. So if you're like, I just fire him. Okay. All right. I think it's not just a little more complicated than that. I think it's a lot more complicated than that. So those are my thoughts on Matt LaFleur. At this hour, we could get breaking news at any time. Tonight, tomorrow, next week, who knows? I'll take your calls on this, anything Packer related, including something that I'm starting to worry about. Mike Clemens dropped what I think is a little bit of a bombshell on the show last night. So I don't know that people fear the Packers anymore. I don't think opponents, whether it's the Niners, whether it's the Bears, the Vikings, the Lions, I don't think anybody's scared of this Packers team. I think that's a massive problem. We'll discuss that and we'll get to your phone calls next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
4 years. That's enough time to earn a college degree, to serve a full term as a president, to train for something big and become someone new.
You bet, and get 0% interest for 4 years at Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin, so you can invest in your home and in life's biggest moments. With exclusive features and customizations, Pella offers the highest quality products at a price you can afford.
Aim high when setting your New Year's resolution and imagine what you can do in 4 years when you finance your home project with Pella. Visit PellaWI.com today.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
You were here when I think teams were scared of the Packers and were scared to come into Lambeau. So what's changed? What's different now?
Is they have showed that they can be beaten in many different facets. And this is, and no guy wants to hear this. No guy inside that locker room. But they have showed they are a soft team when it comes to closing you out. You can beat them up. You can get over on them. Defensively, tell me they've had defensive victories. This past season, they did. We talked about it. Like, there you go. They got that close. But to be considered a closeout defense, you got to do it on the consistent. And they don't. We talk about all the time, complete game, complementary football, all that stuff. And when they get it, it's like surprising. You know what I mean? It used to be you had a defense that took the ball away and an offense that would just run you to death. And if you got behind, it was game over. That was it. It was game over. Now it's like, well, they get a big lead and then they hang on.
That's Bill Michaels. I don't think teams are scared of the Packers. I don't even think that's an opinion. That's an observation. Nobody's scared of this team anymore. They've blown too many games. They've lost at Lambeau too many times. No one's intimidated by this team anymore. And if your offense is smart and you execute, you don't need to be the hardest hitting. You don't need to be the Ravens or the Steelers or, the Niners with Patrick Willis and those guys. Like, you don't need to be the biggest and toughest if you win and you pour a lot of points. So the problem is the Packers don't even do that. They'll get up 21-3 and then, fold their hands and pray. And I asked Bill earlier today. So tell me about the late 90s or the mid 90s when nobody came to Lambeau and won. Teams were afraid of the Packers. They had that aura. So he talked a little bit about that. That's the beginning of hour number 2. If you want that full segment in the podcast, we reacted to what Quay Walker said, which is basically like, this goes back to before I even got here. This team can't finish. They can't close out. So really what the Packers have become is the Atlanta Falcons, but they play outside and they have good quarterbacks. Because the Falcons blow games and they're a little bit of a joke and no one's really all that scared of them, even when they're talented and even when they've had good players. That's a problem. And you see players on Saturday night in a playoff game dogging it. That's a problem. Making business decisions, jogging. That's a problem. Quay Walker saying, it's been this way since before I got here, basically saying, don't look at me. This is on the coaches. This is on the organization. That's a problem. And I just really struggle to think or believe or to convince myself that, hey, a healthy Micah, a healthy Tucker Kraft next year, healthy Devontae Wyatt, well, now they'll win 12 games and they'll host playoff games and they'll win them. I've seen too much. But it's still not as simple as, well, then fire the coach. Okay, well, you would be the 10th team in this cycle. Who do you love? Okay, well then keep the coach. But you have to guarantee $60 million in 4 years maybe to keep him. That's what the hang-up is. There's no good option for the Packers right now. All right, to your phone call, 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
This is Jeff from Menominee.
Hey, Jeff, what's going on?
You just played a little piece from Bill there that I really agreed with, where I was kind of going into halftime the other night. A sideline reporter interviewed Matt LaFleur, and right away Matt said the pre-canned answer, you know how Chicago comes back and we have to finish. And yet you've seen the Packers, the same old. They came out of the tunnel after the half and 3 and out. And even the second 3 and out, I think that Jordan Love was facing like a 3rd and 3. And the field opened up in front of him. Just run for the dang first down. Mm-hmm. Instead, he counts to 4 and he fires it out of bounds.
Yep.
Automatically gave up that possession. It's like you can't play that way. This is still back to that old conversation of Holmgren and Favre, where they used to stick a fork in people. And how do you teach that? It seemed like when there was a healthy Micah Parsons, it seemed like the other teammates around him ran to the ball that much harder. He brought that attitude out on the field.
Yeah.
But right now, you don't have a catalyst for attitude late in the game.
I mean,
your thoughts?
They did, but no, Jeff, you're absolutely right. Thanks for listening to Menominee. They did play that way in week 1, week 2. And even, like against the Browns, they did too. They lost that thing as the year went on. They didn't fly to the ball as hard, or it certainly didn't look like it. I'm sure you could find examples of film. This goes back to something that Bill always references, and he talked about this with Greg Cosell last year at the Super Bowl, and it's great audio. Maybe I'll play it coming out of the next break because I have the cut. We play it. It feels like once a week because it's still so applicable, where it's like, we don't know what Jordan Love is being coached to do. That throwaway on 3rd and 2, did Matt LaFleur say, hey, man, if you're unsure, throw it out of bounds. If you're unsure, slide. We don't want to turn it over. We don't want to give him short fields. Is that the coaching? Because, okay, then that would make sense to what I'm seeing with Jordan Love, but that coaching is scared. That's we just need to hold on coaching. That's not trying to land, a finishing blow. That's not trying to slam the door coaching. But I don't know what was preached at halftime. I don't know what was being told into Jordan Love's ear on that play specifically, Jeff. I think that's an interesting play and probably pretty instructive of the problems with the Packers and the coaches and the connections with the players right now. And by the way, Micah comes back, it's all fixed. Okay, that's assuming he comes back 100%. I also don't like the idea, and I don't like the reality that we've referenced throughout the season where it's like this Packers team was the exact same as last year and the exact same as year before, except Micah Parsons is here. I don't like that. I want to see other parts of the team maturing and getting better and getting more of an edge as well. Micah Parsons can't be the only guy who brings that. But this year, that's exactly what it was. That guy needs to be a force multiplier in a way that, like, when he goes to the bench, that needs to still be a thing. If he has to miss a game, that thing still needs to live there. It can't just be the same soft Packers that can't slam the door. And also Micah Parsons is here now. That's not going to work. That's not fundamentally changing or improving anything about the culture or the organization or the roster. You added one awesome player. And that'll help, but it's not improving and growing the team, and this team needs to improve and grow. 608-321-1670, Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
But Grant, we just got to get a couple of these games at home in Lambeau.
Oh,
That's the solution.
Cone Roller, didn't you hate hearing that? First of all, because, you could have had this game at home had you not, blown games to the Browns, the Panthers, but also that's what Rodgers started to say, at the end, and then they got games at home and they blew those too. So it just feels like we're going back in time. I got deja vu hearing that.
That made me put wrenches in my stomach hearing that. Mm-hmm. Really, we're going down this again. LaFleur, you were the head coach the last time the guy before was saying that. Yep. Don't you know? We can't win at home either.
Yeah. And winning at home, you guys had the ability. They should have won the division this year. They should have beat the Browns. They should have beat the Eagles or the Cowboys. You should have been able to hold on against the Bears. You should have won the division, and you should have been hosting that game. But, Cone, I've watched this team long enough. Being at Lambeau isn't a fix-all. They're not a sure thing at Lambeau either. They lose a ton of games at home.
No, yeah, totally. I think, COVID was probably their best chance where there was no crowd. Rodgers could manipulate the snap count. You heard Matt LaFleur say the snap count was an issue in Chicago. So moment passed us by a long, long time ago.
Yeah. I might feel the same way. Hey, good Badger, a heck of a Badger team you got there, Cone. We're going to get to that at 5:00. I'm excited to dig into that. Last night was fun.
I was going to say, why are we burying the lead talking about LaFleur for the 5th straight day?
Well, we didn't lead with
Brady
LaFleur last
Carrington.
night.
It's Brady Carrington Day. Stud.
That's true.
Revenge game.
Did you know, by the way, that my friend told me in a group chat last night, I didn't look this up. Do you know Braden Carrington once dated Suni Lee? Do you know anything about this?
I don't know who that is.
The gymnast. I think she's dating OGN, and she's a very famous Olympian gymnast. She's thought to be quite desirable among the all right, I need to look. Cone, I appreciate it. I need to look into this. That blew my gourd, but it was one guy who said one thing, but he lives in the Twin Cities. He would know. We'll get into Badgers basketball at 5:00. I promise. I want to spend lots of time on that. All right, Wisco Sports Show. Let's take another one. Who's this?
I got to admit, my depth chart on gymnasts goes from Simone Biles and Livy Dunn, and I stopped there, Grant. That's a deep cut for me.
Tony, I'm not trying to be the pervy guy. I'm not trying to be the pervy
You're
guy
doing
here.
a good job of it.
Seriously, none of you know who Suni Lee is?
Well, single Grant sure knows who that is. Hey, Grant, let's get into the Packers,
She's
though.
very
Let's
famous.
dig into this.
She's
I'm
remarkably
sure she
famous.
is in your world.
Okay, all right.
In your circles, I'm sure she is.
I
Grant.
cannot believe I'm getting this from you, Tony, in Texas right now. I'll take this from anyone else. I'm not being accused of being this guy by you, with all due.
I think I've heard the name, but you know what? Let's look at your Packer history the last 40 years. I feel like I got a good feel on this. Back in 91, Bob Harlan went through this with, he had to fire a GM, fire a coach. He hired Ron Wolf, who hired Mike Holmgren back in 2008. You had Mark Murphy just hired, and he bring in, he had to let Favre go, and they brought in Aaron Rodgers to be the starter. Now Ed Policy's got to go through the same thing. It's crazy that this thing happens over and over. So the question you got to ask yourself, Grant, though, is do you think, I'm asking you right now, I don't want any kind of BS answer by you. I want a concrete answer. Do you think that Matt LaFleur is the next Andy Reid or the next Marty Schottenheimer?
I would guess Marty Schottenheimer.
Then you got to do what you got to do.
This is the problem. And I'm glad, Tony, I'm thankful for this call, actually. You reset us a little bit on Matt LaFleur. This is not cut and dry. This is not fire or keep him. This is fire him and become the 10th team in this cycle in the middle of a window of contention when you're not really sure of who's better, or keep him for 3 or 4 more years at $15 million per guaranteed. That's not okay. I'm getting roasted in the chat for being that guy. She's very famous. Grant would know who Suni Lee is. She's very, I'm not engaging with this, by the way. And I Googled it. I couldn't find anything, but Suni Lee is from St. Paul. Braden Carrington was Mr. Basketball in the state of Minnesota, right? I swear, if my college buddy was jerking me, I got to text him. I should have brought this up, but I figured if anyone would go down that road with me, it would be Tony in Texas. And instead he took the high road. For the first time in the history of his calls to the show, he took the high road. All right, Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, Grant. It's Clemhead Mike.
Hey, Clemhead. How you doing?
Oh, good. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm glad that the Matt LaFleur conversation tonight, that I found a way to make this interesting to myself, because it feels like we've been doing this for 2 months.
Yeah. Well, if it makes you feel any better, I just looked up Suni Lee. I had no idea who she was. I don't follow Olympics either.
Well,
so,
where's your love for country? You're a veteran. How can you can't get behind women's gymnastics? It's a very popular sport.
Yeah. Well, I don't care.
Okay, that's fair. That's fine. I'm not going to hold that against you.
What I was thinking was, I don't know if it was today or yesterday, somebody brought up, or somebody on Bill's show brought up the Packers offensive line. We got guards playing center. We got centers. We got guards playing tackle. We got tackles playing guard. Maybe that's why I complain bitterly about Packers not being able to convert a 3rd and 1, because they're pulling the guards and they're running wide, or they're throwing 40-yard passes. Maybe they just don't have the horses on the offensive line. Draft guards to play guard, tackles to play tackle. A real center. I don't think Elton Jenkins did a great job at center. I think that was a really bad mistake, taking him out of his natural position. And we need a better offensive line. Last year, you showed us graphs and charts that prove the offensive line was really good.
Yeah.
This year, I don't think you could say that. I think that's a lot of the problems on the offense.
No, and I have a graph or a chart somewhere. Here you go. Packers pass protection by PFF since 2014. Let's just start in 2021. I'm going to go 2021 to now. Pass protection ranking: 7th, 3rd, 10th, 3rd, and then this year they dropped to 21st. They hadn't been they weren't outside of the top 10 any year from 2014 to 2020. They went 1, 2, 1, 7, 1, 4, 2nd, 7th, 3rd, 10th, 3rd, 21st. Going back 11 years now since their debacle against Seattle. So, this is by far the worst pass protecting line they've had.
It didn't pass my eye test then. So thanks for the stats. Because that's, of course, the old Vince Lombardi. He always said that the games were won in the trenches. The Packers just didn't have the trenches this year. I don't care how many good wide receivers you have or how good your quarterback is. If you got a quarterback who's always on the run and you can't throw on the run like Jordan Love can't, you're screwed. And I think the Packers, I know they don't have any first rounders this year, but I think they need to concentrate on real offensive linemen. Not that guy, not Jordan. They picked him. He was injured when they picked him. And I objected to that pick because Mel Kiper called it, and that made me really angry. Jordan Morgan was his pick. And we're screwed.
I think Jordan Morgan, after seeing the last couple games, Clem, I got to run. I appreciate it. I think he's going to be a good tackle for the next couple of years. I feel pretty good about him. There was a lot of tumult on the O-line this year, and part of that was they moved Elton Jenkins. I don't really have a problem with that. I look at Elton Jenkins and said, dude, you didn't do your job this year. You weren't ready to play center when the season started. And then he got hurt. So Sean Ryan moves. They're playing Jordan Morgan at guard, which he's not a guard. Okay, Zach Tom was missing time. Well, when Belton settled in at guard, he was pretty good. When Jordan Morgan was playing right tackle for Zach Tom, who's their best lineman, who was missing, he was pretty good. I thought towards the end of the year, Aaron Banks was just fine at left guard, which is all they signed him to be. And Rasheed Walker, in the biggest moments, completely and totally turtles. If Rasheed Walker plays average football on Saturday night, they win. It's hard for me to look at the front office and say, how could you build a bad O-line when they would have won that playoff game had their franchise left tackle just not played his worst version of football, which he always does in big games. It's frustrating, but the offensive line, a huge part of it. You're absolutely right. There's a couple of you on hold. I promise I'll get to more calls right after this break. Jesse Temple in 1 hour. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 5 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 4 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Wisco Sports Show, Jesse Temple in an hour. We're going to do one more segment on the Packers, some final thoughts, 2 final calls here, and then I'll give you some closing remarks for the day on where I think the Packers stand with Matt LaFleur. I'll give you 2 minutes on the Bucks and Giannis and that debacle last night to wrap up the hour before we switch over to Badgers basketball at 5 o'clock. 608-321-1670. 2 calls here. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Little Red Riding Hood.
Hello, Dave from Monona.
All right, a couple things. You know, Matt LaFleur is kind of like your love life, dating the last 3 women you had. If you keep making the same mistakes and you don't change,
what are you talking about?
We're gonna find Grant at the pig farm yelling, "Stewie, Stewie."
I
waited that whole 5 minutes for that.
I actually agree with that spin as it relates to Matt LaFleur. I don't think it relates to me, but I agree with the football side of it.
But,
yes.
I know, but Stewie, that's your new love champ. But anyway,
All right.
number one, it is cut and dry. You either accept mediocrity and failure or you don't. I don't care about what happens in 10 different cities. Nobody cares. It's like the child that comes to the dad. Well, my neighbor gets to do it. How come I can't do it? No. Matt LaFleur has the same mistakes. And maybe by the way they're waiting so long. And by the way, here's my main comment. Because you mentioned the Bucks. Can you imagine if that game would have been at home? That team would have got stuff thrown on the field, booed off the field, booed out of the locker room, and it would have been unbelievable. Because they've been booed this year.
Atlanta.
I could only imagine how relentless that would be. And 30 seconds on Giannis. Guess what, Giannis? You play for the fans. I don't give a rat's ass about your family or your teammates. If the fans are the one who put you on a pedestal and paid you $50 million a year, don't let the door hit you on the ass on the way out of town making babies. A comment like that just tells me, guess what? You should have been booed.
Yeah.
So, Grant, Suey.
Thank you, Dave from Monona. So we'll get to Giannis next segment. I'm not going to drag it out, but I'll give you 4 or 5 minutes. It's not really a Giannis thing. It's more of a Bucks take. I want to talk about the idea that the fans were booing the Bucks at home. That I find that interesting. I don't find the fact that they got blown out again to a team missing some of their best players again. That's not interesting. That's more of the same. But the fans booing the home team and then the star player responding, I do have something to say about that. Matt LaFleur, it's much of the same. And Dave, I don't disagree with you. I think historically I've liked Matt LaFleur a lot more than Dave. Most people have. If you told me that next year, well, all they need is a Micah Parsons back and Devontae Wyatt and a healthy Tucker Kraft, and then it'll all be different. It'll be good. Okay, but all those guys were healthy when you lost to Cleveland. All those guys were healthy when you tied Dallas. And you didn't lose games to, in my opinion, the Eagles or the Bears the second time. First loss, second matchup. I don't think those losses were directly related to injuries. So how am I supposed to believe and how am I supposed to convince myself that next year, well, they'll be healthy, now they'll win 12 or 13 games? Because that is the standard. This team hasn't won the division in forever. The Vikings, the Lions, and the Bears have all won the division since the Packers have. And they've all got different coaches since the last time that the Packers have won the division too. These teams aren't scared of the Packers. 10 wins in a wild card spot is not good enough next year. It's not. You need to win the division and host playoff games. And I really struggled to convince myself that just because they'll be healthy next year, Matt LaFleur and his staff are going to be able to pull that off. What evidence do we have? It's been a lot of the same stuff. It's been a lot of repeated behaviors. They've been telling us for years who they are, the type of team they are. It's a team that will win 9 or 10 games and be on the road in the first round of the playoffs and probably lose. All right, 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, Grant. It's Coyote Mike.
Hey, Coyote Mike. What do you think? Thanks for waiting.
I think Ed Policy has his Kobayashi Maru staring him straight in the face.
Okay.
There's no right answer here. My answer would be, at the worst, would be to let him play out his contract next year.
That would be the worst
thing. And then that would be, well, yeah, the worst thing for me.
Oh,
I mean, the best thing would be to fire him, to not extend him at all and let him go. I don't know if I said that right. But,
no, I agree with you. Kobayashi Maru, is that what you said? Kyrie Kumite.
Yeah, from Star Trek.
Gotcha.
From Star Trek.
Yeah. What a lot of people aren't grasping, and I didn't grasp this until recently. I didn't think about this a month ago in this way, so I'm late to this. But we're really not deciding whether to fire or keep him. They're deciding whether to fire him. And now if they fire him, they're the 10th job opening in a market that I think they'd be one of the more attractive jobs right away. Don't get me wrong, but you're still late to the party, and I don't know that there's any great candidates. So that's option A. Or option B is you're extending him at the top of the market because that's clearly what his camp is holding out for, which means 3 or 4 years, $15 million per, all guaranteed, because that's what coaches make.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I said, I think, last week or the week before. If you extend him, you're running a risk then of having to pay off, like you said, another $45 million for mediocrity.
Mm-hmm.
And just like you said, if half of what we have heard and seen is really true, and most of it is over the past few years, why is the future going to be any different? And then if Ed Policy is going to bring him back, and then they're going to put stipulations on him, you got to get rid of the special teams. You're probably going to need a new defensive coordinator. Matt LaFleur has a history of not making good hires. He had a good linebackers coach who left after a few years. That guy went to Minnesota. Minnesota, great linebackers. You don't see anybody trying to pilfer staff off of pilfer coaches off of LaFleur's staff.
I mean, people have talked about his hires being bad. So Jeff Hafley might get a head coaching job here. I think LaFleur should get credit for that. I think Campanile is at some point going to be a head coach. He's in Jacksonville. He's got a head coaching interview or two, maybe not in this cycle. Hackett got a head coaching job. Getsy got a promotion. Now, what those guys went on to do after that, maybe that also reflects on Matt LaFleur a little bit, but I think he's been a better hirer. I think you would look at special teams. Coyote Mike, I'm going to run. Thank you. You look at special teams and say, well, Rich Bisaccia hasn't worked out. That was a bad hire. I am of the belief now that I don't think the failures of the special teams have been on the coordinators. I think they're part of it. I think it's an organizational thing. I don't think Matt LaFleur emphasizes it. I don't know that they practice it. I just, that needs a complete overhaul from the top. So if they decide this offseason, we want to fire Rich Bisaccia, fine. But if you think the next guy's going to walk in and, now it's fixed. No. Because I have actually 15 years of evidence that's not true. Going back to Sean Slocum and Ron Zook and Sean Menenga and Maurice Drayton and Rich Bisaccia and all these guys, none of them, it has been the same with all of them. So what's the common denominator? It's head coach Matt LaFleur and the way that the organization is run. That's what needs to change. But I don't know how you could say, well, the hires have been bad. We can poke fun at Joe Barry. They didn't lose playoff games because of Joe Barry. Now, they maybe had some clunker performances, but hello, have you been watching Jeff Hafley's defense? They have clunkers too. I don't know that his hires have been that bad. In fact, I would almost venture to say he's been an underrated hirer. Hackett was brilliant in his role to the point where he got a head coaching job. Their red zone offense and level of execution hasn't been the same since he's been gone. So whether or not, oh yeah, but he was terrible in Denver, that ain't my problem. Russell Wilson sucked balls. Of course he was terrible in Denver. Sean Payton got there and couldn't wait to get rid of him. Bo Nix has been a revelation there. Of course Hackett sucked. His quarterback was a boob. So I don't know that Matt LaFleur has been a bad hirer. I think Green Bay's budget as it pertains to hiring assistant coaches is pretty weak. It's been written about in detail in the last week or two by Justice Mosqueda. I want to get to that. Maybe not tonight because I want to talk Badgers basketball in the 5 o'clock hour, but maybe tomorrow. Like they don't hire a lot of external guys. They promote from within to where it's like, oh, we need to replace our passing game coordinator. We're going to promote the wide receivers coach and we're going to promote the assistant offensive line coach to now be the receivers coach. They just don't have a lot of outside experience. There's not a lot of investment at assistants, but I think his coordinator hires have actually been sneaky underrated good. Hackett, Stenovich, I think for the most part up until this year, you'd say a ton of value there in what he contributes to the O-line. You know what I mean? Campanile, Joe Barry, better than most would say. Hafley is going to get a head coaching job. I don't know that he deserves it, but he's thought of very highly. Just some final Matt LaFleur thoughts. I'm going to give you a couple minutes on the Bucks coming up next, and then we'll get into Badgers basketball at 5 o'clock. Don't go anywhere.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
You know, no excuses. We just didn't have it. We were flat. I thought our guys tried at the beginning of the third quarter to fight back a little bit, but when you dig yourself that big of a hole, every basket, every turnover, anything hurts. So I actually probably should have pulled the plug earlier because I just thought we were flat. I didn't think we had anything tonight.
Were you kind of gesturing or booing back, like sarcastically, after
No, I was
that
definitely booing back. When I get booed, I boo back. I've been doing all season. You guys haven't been with me on the road. Whenever I get booed, I boo back. That I play basketball for my teammates. I play basketball for myself and my family. When people don't believe in me, I don't tend to be with them. I tend to be against them.
Wisco Sports Show, a couple minutes on the Bucks. They lost to the Wolves. The Wolves were without Edwards and Gobert. Who cares? They lost to the Nuggets the other night, who played nobody. This Bucks team just can't be trusted, can't be counted on even to beat teams that they should beat, even at home. I don't really care about that. I care about the crowd booing the Bucks and Giannis booing them back. I saw some tweets from Bucks fans last night and into today. It's like, I don't think it's right. Call me an old man, but I don't think it's right for the home crowd to boo the home team. And in principle, I might agree that booing your home team in their home building is bad. Maybe that is poor form in principle. Like if this was a perfect world and I pooped cotton candy, then sure. But we don't live in a perfect world. And I have been at Bucks games like last night. The Bucks, by the way, largest deficit was 41 points. They trailed by 41 points last night at home. I've been at games at Fiserv Forum where 10 minutes into the fourth quarter or into the first quarter, so let's say there's 5 minutes left in the first quarter. It was a bad way to explain it. It's clear that, like, oh, these guys just aren't trying tonight. Okay, cool. Well, do you want to hang around for the next 2 hours, or like, do you just want to go? Like, you just want to go across the street? You just want to go to the Harp? Like, I've been at games like that, and I think it's the biggest load of BS. There's nothing more insulting. I'm not trying to get on my horse here. There's nothing more insulting than overpaying for Bucks tickets because, well, there's nothing going on. It's Saturday night. Let's go to Bucks game. We'll sit up in the nosebleeds. We don't need a good seat. Oh, how much are tickets? Oh, $80. Oh, okay, cool. Well, I guess we already committed. Let's go. All right. I didn't want to pay this much, but all right, Bucks game. That's fun. Something to do. Let's watch some good basketball. Maybe my team will win. Maybe they won't. It's the way sports work. Oh, my team isn't trying tonight. Well, F me. Like, those fans should boo. I don't care if this Bucks team doesn't have the juice, and it's clear that they do not. If they don't have the talent, if they don't have the juice, that's one thing. If you show up in front of your home crowd or an away crowd, really, I'd prefer the players try every game, but you show up in front of your home crowd and you're fine being down 40 to an undermanned team and you just don't care. They should throw stuff on the court, not just boo. I'm with Dave from Monona here. Those tickets are not cheap. And if you make a commitment to go to a game, again, you don't need to win. Call me crazy. Call me entitled. Oh, you're such an entitled Gen Z millennial fan. Yes, I am entitled. If I'm spending $80 on tickets, I'd prefer that my basketball team attempts to win. Is that crazy? I don't know. Maybe I'm spoiled. I would just like them to try. Just to run fast and jump high. Just give me that. They didn't get it last night. So the crowd booed them. Screw them. You're down 41 to a team without their two best players. Losers. All right, Badgers basketball. Let's get into it next. I'm excited for this. I'll take more of your calls as well. Zach's update first. Be right back.
This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, Wisconsin's still on a high from last night after getting a John Blackwell three-pointer at the buzzer to beat Minnesota. It was Wisconsin's 10th straight win over the Gophers, and it was their third straight win overall this year. It included 21 points from Minnesota native Braden Carrington, who played for the Gophers for 2 years, got booed every time he touched the ball.
Last night, I probably had never been so anxious to play a game. Even like Saturday, I went into the game like, oh, well, it's another basketball game. This one, for whatever reason, just had me up all night. And, obviously it went the right way and happy for it.
Wisconsin's now beaten UCLA, number 2 Michigan, and Minnesota over its last 3 games. Coach Greg Gard admitted it's been a tough week.
Happy with the win. We need a day off. We've had this has been a heck of a 3-game grind. So we'll get some rest tomorrow and then use the last 2 days of the week to prep for Saturday.
Badgers going to face Rutgers on Saturday at the Kohl Center. Turn to the Bucks. They got blown out last night by Minnesota at home. Crowd booed them. Giannis Antetokounmpo not pleased with it. Booed back at them. Milwaukee 17-23 on the year. Going to be in San Antonio tomorrow night to face the Spurs.
Some of America's bravest warriors are returning home wounded. Here's one of them.
My name is Norberto Lara. While I was on a combat patrol, a rocket propelled grenade took my arm off at the shoulder. I was discharged from the Army, and I've been working with the Wounded Warrior Project since 2007. You don't have to be severely wounded. A lot of guys have post-traumatic stress disorder. Being able to share your story kind of helps you wrap your mind around what did happen over there. My name is Norby, and yes, I do suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder, but I'm okay.
Don't suffer in silence. Contact woundedwarriorproject.org.
Well, it's still wait and see for the Packers, and Coach Matt LaFleur reports earlier this week said the two sides were trying to work out something that would keep LaFleur as the head coach, but so far there's been no news on that front yet. And Wisconsin up to 27 additions from the transfer portal so far. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil, Print.
8 seconds left. Awesome, Elisa for Tyson for 3 in the tie. It's good. We're tied. 4.6 seconds to play. Inbounds pass Blackwell with 3, with 2, with 1. Blackwell for the win. Good! John Blackwell for 3. John Blackwell for the win.
What a shot by John Blackwell.
I let it go long enough just to get Butchie's comment in there. This was the finish in Minneapolis last night at the barn. It's funny. I didn't realize the Badgers had that many straight wins over the Gophers. I guess it's not shocking, but especially the games in the barn, they always seem to come down to the wire. There are always important free throws at the end, important defensive possessions at the end, important rebounds to be grabbed at the end. Was that 9 or 10 straight? I think they mentioned on Big Ten Network last night, and the last time the Badgers, or I believe, or the Gophers, either way, had a winning streak over the other that long was more than 100 years ago. In fact, before the barn was even built, they pointed out on the broadcast last night. I was just passively listening. I was putting laundry away. So I heard them talk about that. I might be off by a year or two, but I think it was 9 or 10 straight wins. I thought last night's win very, very, very important because Saturday was, I think, the biggest win that any team has maybe had in college basketball all year long. It's maybe the most impressive road win any team has had. It's a feather in the Badgers' cap that will stick and give them a resume building. That's a resume building piece they'll have for the rest of the year. When tournament time comes, that is, you cannot have a bigger win than the Badgers had on Saturday in college basketball. I also think that win was especially important for this team because I think they have the talent and I think they have the athleticism. And even though it hasn't been consistent, I think they have the shooting. And I know a lot of people poke holes at Nolan Winter. I think they have the presence and the size underneath, at least enough presence and size to get it done when you consider Nick Boyd and John Blackwell are going to be leading the way. Bielauskas is young, or Bielauskas is young. I think he's getting better every game in which he plays more. I think this team has the pieces. It hadn't coalesced yet. Is that a correct word? I think that works in this. It hadn't all come together yet, right? And I thought that Saturday's win could be just the thing to be, it would be the binding age. It'd be like the cornstarch to this thing. It's like, this is what's going to bring it all together. It's all going to start making sense. You just needed that spark. You needed that one moment. Because I think at times the shooting is come and gone. At times the defense has been it's been disconnected. It's been disjointed. And at times it's looked like, are you guys even locked in or even trying that hard? Nick Boyd looking around like, guys, let's go. I think it's hard to not lock in. And it's hard to not take your play up another level and your intensity another level when you win a game like that over Michigan on Saturday. But a lot of that goes away if you step on yourself and you lose to Minnesota. And Minnesota's much improved. That's a good coach. Like it's not a walkover program. And I don't know what the line was last night. I expect the Badgers were favored. I guess I didn't look because I don't bet on the games. But that was a game that, again, they needed to have that one to keep it going. And to go on a run where I think they went on like a 14-0 run and then to miss some crucial free throws, but to get the clutch play and the clutch shooting from Blackwell and Carrington pouring it in a bunch, so a revenge game. I was texting with a friend last night. I said in a group chat, I said, Braden Carrington revenge game. And he's like, well, is it really a revenge game if he chose to leave? Yeah, shut up. That's not how it works. Former team, it's just how it works. I'm looking for what the line was last night. Wisconsin minus a 1.5. So close, but yeah, they were favored. Minus 118. It was pretty close. 118 versus 110 on the money line. 125 versus plus 105. So the money line a little closer, I guess. Your thoughts on Badgers basketball? 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
It's Darnell.
Okay, thank God, Darnell. My nightmare was I kept getting Packers calls. And while I don't mind talking Packers, I would like to talk Badgers basketball for a little bit. What's up?
Yeah, I'll actually start by just reiterating the fantastic sports announcing that we had in Wisconsin. Matt LePay's call last night, just great call. I always have the radio on in the background, just in case, there's a really, really cool thing that happens. I do that with football too. Just because hearing Matt LePay say something live is just, it's a transcendent experience in some cases. So, back when the Badger football team was good and they used to score like long touchdowns, the, Melvin Gordon-esque touchdowns that were like 75 yards. And by the time you got all the way to the end zone, you hear the touchdown Wisconsin, that just fires you up. So
his voice is so it's like, it is Wisconsin. And Butchie, I think Butchie's the best color commentator we have. How many do we have? I guess there's McCarron but you know what I mean? Like, I think he's outstanding.
To be fair, I liked Mike Lucas a lot. So not hearing him on the call hurts a little bit on football and basketball. But I will say Butch has done well. I think better than the last couple of years. Let's put it that way. So, but yeah, Butch did a pretty good job. And then on top of that, we've got BA and Rock for the Brewers. I'm going to leave Lisa Byington out of this one. I'm sorry. I can't get into it.
It's fine.
It's just not, it's too much Doris Burke for me.
That's fine. You are the fan, Darnell. Far be it for me to tell you how to fan and which announcers to like.
I just and maybe it's because I miss Jim Paschke, who was also a legend. But that aside, like you said, probably the most important Badger win this year. Obviously, the Michigan is the biggest one of the year. But like you said, if you follow up your Michigan win with a dud, all of a sudden you fall out of favor with all the AP voters, and that's a quad 2 loss, so you kind of fall further away from being at the 500 mark, where you want to. I think what they say is they want you to be at 500 or above in quad 1 and quad 2 for an at-large berth in the NCAA tournament. So they're 4 and 5 now in the first 2 quads.
And it's easier to stack wins in quad 2 wins than it is in quad 1. Like, you need to make your bones a little bit more in there.
Absolutely. And it's hard to win on the road in the Big Ten. Like, people, they kind of discount that these days. Like, I agree. There is still something to be said about going to a hostile environment. In the Barnes case, it wasn't exactly hostile last night, but going into someone else's gym and then beating them in that gym. And now the Badgers have done that twice in the last 4 days, and I'm really impressed with them. I had lost a little bit of faith in them, especially with the dud against Purdue at home.
Yeah,
but they've definitely. I really hope that they've turned a corner, and they certainly show signs of passion and a little bit more energy than we saw in December. So I appreciate that.
And I do as well. That's my thing with them, Darnell. I'm going to let you go. Thank you for calling to talk Badger basketball. That's my thing with them. And I don't want to say that my issue is that they need to try harder. I don't want to say that my issue is that they're lazy or that they need to lock in. But it's a little bit of that. I asked Zach about this on Friday, and he's like, no, I think that's fair. And I think if you've watched Nick Boyd in some of these losses, Nick Boyd didn't come to Wisconsin to, put up points on a bad team. That's not why he came here. He came here for the same reason that, AJ Storr did or John Tonje did, to make money, sure, and to play in the Big Ten. But also, like, this is a team we're going to win. And we're going to play in meaningful games against, you just want to say quad 1, meaningful games at the Chrysler Center or at the Barn or at, against Villanova or at BYU. Like, we're going to play at the highest level on big stages against good teams. And we're going to be in the mix in the conference, and we're going to be in the tournament. And we're going to, the expectation is we make it out of the first round or the second round, I think Nick Boyd at times this season has looked around and is like, guys, this is not why I came here. I didn't come here to give up with 12 minutes left in the second half against BYU or against Nova. That's not why I came here. So I think at times my complaint about this team is they need to lock in a little bit. They need to snap to it a little bit, try a little bit harder. And in the span of 4 days, going to the Chrysler Center and going to the barn, and the barn, the lesser, I mean, Michigan's the second team in the country, or they were at the time in the AP. But Michigan falling behind and fighting back on the road and putting a run together in, early in the second half, like it's a really impressive win. They've won 3 in a row. The UCLA win didn't do much for me. The Michigan win did as much as any game can do for me. And last night, I almost think of as an extension of the Michigan win. Like, can you keep it going and can you not show up and, have a no-show after this win that, like, it could not be a bigger shot in the arm. There's no bigger win in college basketball than the type of win that the Badgers had on Saturday. And you can't let that die, at least not as a favorite on the road in a building that has a lot of your own fans. It wouldn't have been an unspeakable loss, but it really would have been a bummer considering what happened on Saturday. Let's take another call here. 608-321-1670, Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
How we doing?
Hello?
Win.
Oh, hey, Vagabond. I can barely hear you. Talk louder.
It's me. Okay.
Okay,
Sorry.
there you go.
Forgot I was on hold, and I was playing the drums, and then I heard that, and I'm like, oh, I'm on. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Hell yeah.
Let's mute the cymbal.
Playing the drums. You were at the game last night.
What a game. Boots on the ground. It was great to get to experience one of the top high school gyms in America, the barn, built in, 1840 is what it felt like. I don't know. Did you watch the game, Grant, or did you catch up on highlights?
Yes, I watched the game.
Could you feel the clock issues through the TV?
No,
Like, did they go to extra commercials.
And maybe I wasn't locked in enough. I saw a ton of tweets about this, one from you, and I'm like, there must have been something in the building, or maybe I missed something really important. But no, what was going on?
They restarted the second half 3 separate times because they couldn't get the clock to start ticking down from 20. And then 2 other times, I think the shot clock wouldn't reset or something. And I'm just sitting there thinking, okay, I've got Arc Raiders to get home and play after this game. Can we wrap this up, fellas? Can we get going?
You and Austin, Bull Austin was telling me about that the other morning. Good for you. I'm glad you have a game that you both enjoy.
Excited to be at the last 2 Badger buzzer beaters. Had to tweet the photo. Iconic photo. Can ask G-Dub about the specifics on that photo. But really cool to get another buzzer beater in the belt. That's why we show up to live sports. Z and the D and I, we looked at each other and we said, we could just go to the bars, to your point on the Bucks. Like, recent live sports for me, I've watched, the Packers go to US Bank in a game that nobody wanted to play on either side. They're like, okay, we have to show up and do this. I'm like, do I need to go to live sports? Or could we just go play darts at a bar? We sucked it up and went and supported the team, especially on the road in enemy territory. Stadium, probably 40% Badger fans, more because they brought the noise. But that was incredible. Couple points on Greg Gard specifically. Not only is this 2 road wins in the Big Ten in a row, not only is it 2 back-to-back double-digit comebacks in the second half, but there's specific tactical changes that I think we forget about in the era of college basketball. And I thought Greg Gard could be a decent NBA coach for a while now, just in some of the out-of-bounds plays that he calls, in some of the tactics and the way that he shifts and makes the most out of his players. Bieliauskas had no business being on the court last night. After being one of the heroes of the Michigan game, right? Absolutely lighting us up from 3. Dude did not belong on the same court as Minnesota. If you look at the box score, I think he played maybe 18 minutes, was just getting absolutely bodied by the bigs from Minnesota. So what does he do? He plugs in Jack Janicki, hometown kid. Jack Janicki has turned into one of the Badgers' best post defenders.
Yeah, and a big block down the stretch last night.
Yeah, he and Carrington both with a couple of blocks. You're getting blocks from your guards. And when they say Wisconsin has one of the largest lineups, it's across the lineup. They have tall guards playing. And Jack Janicki playing that kind of, Josh Gosser, just go into the paint and you can draw 3 fouls because you're off the bench. Who cares? Just go be super aggressive in a way that, the European from Lithuania just doesn't have it in them, right? And so at the Michigan game, understanding they wanted to go small, they didn't play the Garlock from Middleton too much then. They went small ball. They put Michigan in a pretzel. Last night, they brought small ball back, but in a little bit of a different way, and some of the matchups that he tightened up. Super impressed with the in-game adjustments from Coach Gard. 2 back-to-back road wins where you came back from double digits. That is how you get a team to believe. And Grant, Suni Lee was a Packer. I can't believe people did not know who she was.
What do you mean
she was a Packer? Come on, you have South St. Paul High
South St.
School,
Paul.
the
I was going to say,
Packers.
what is this, a
Everybody
South
knows
St.
where that
Paul
is.
thing?
Come on.
So is this
That's
true?
St.
Do you
Paul
know
thing.
anything about this Braden Carrington and Suni Lee back in the day?
Yes, they dated. There was a couple good signs for Braden Carrington from the student section last night. Students brought it. I get it. It's break. So for people kind of bagging on the Minnesota fans, we've seen the Kohl Center be absolutely dead during break as well. And my favorite sign was, "Who cares what happens tonight? We still have the axe." And I felt that one a little bit in my heart. So fun night. Go Greg Gard. Hell yeah.
Go Greg Gard. The rotation, and I didn't even realize this because I missed the beginning of the second half because I was cleaning I made dinner last night. So I was cleaning I went to clean the dishes at halftime and I got back a couple minutes late. So I guess that's the part that I missed. But I didn't even look at the box afterwards. This is funny. I'll watch games and I'll notice things. I'm like, this will be perfect to talk about on the show tomorrow. They're very rarely related to statistics. Like if you could ask me how many minutes did that guy play? How many yards did Jordan Love throw for? I don't know, man. But I can tell you how I think he played, and I can point to a couple big moments or things that I think are important. It's just the way my brain is wired. The Badgers played 8 guys last night, and one of them, Will Garlock, played 1 minute. They basically played 7 guys, and Nolan Winter played 39 minutes. So he was basically their big last night. I got a stump for Nolan Winter a little bit. People make fun of him and say that he's soft. I don't think he is. As I said last week, my issue with Nolan Winter is the skill hasn't been good enough for me. He's supposed to be a 3-point shooter. I should be able to trust him to make his free throws at the end of games. That's the stuff that's bummed me out. I actually think the toughness and the post play I've mostly been fine with and been okay, even better than okay with. I think he's really brought it in that department. Not that most people would give him credit for him, but the skill hasn't necessarily been there in the free throws. I mean, if that game goes to overtime and Wisconsin loses, Nolan Winter's the GOAT and not the good kind. He's the scapegoat because he misses 2 free throws. Either one would have put the game away. It would have made it a 5-point game. Instead, it's left at a 3. And what's his nuts? Cade Tyson sinks the 3. Now, luckily, Blackwell hit it. Also, basketball take just in general. I think if one team hits a prayer like that, it's more likely that the next guy is going to answer with it. Like, I just think that's how the basketball gods operate. It's like a monkey see, monkey do thing. I don't know. It's just, I felt like John Blackwell, damn it, this is about to go in, isn't it? Just because if the first one goes in, the second one, I don't know. And I've been on the other side of that, right? Like the Showalter shot that went in, and then was it McNamara or the Florida player? Like the other one went in. I just feel like that's sometimes how a basketball game works. Anyways, we'll take a couple of minute break here. A couple random thoughts, maybe a little bit more on Badgers basketball, a couple random Packer things, and then Jesse Temple going to be here at 5:35.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
4 years. That's enough time to earn a college degree, to serve a full term as a president, to train for.
And get 0% interest for 4 years at Pella Windows in Dorset, Wisconsin. So you can invest in your home and in life's biggest moments. With exclusive features and customizations, Pella offers the highest quality products at a price you can afford.
Aim high when setting your New Year's resolution and imagine what you can do in 4 years when you finance your home project with Pella. Visit PellaWI.com today. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Last night, I probably had never been so anxious to play a game. Even like Saturday, I went into the game like, oh, well, it's another basketball game. This one, for whatever reason, just had me up all night, and obviously it went the right way, and happy for it.
Braden Carrington has returned to Minnesota. He's very nervous. I can't imagine walking into the Chrysler Center in that environment and be like, yeah, just another game. And then going into the barn, although previous history, I guess I get it. Jesse Temple's going to join us in about 10 minutes. We'll talk Badgers basketball, but also the latest on what's going on in the portal. I want to ask him about Charles Perkins. He's back. Emilio Agard is leaving. Just the machinations of some of those decisions. Both guys put their name in. Perkins pulled it out. I saw that Agard's touring Virginia or going to visit Virginia. He's not touring. They're not, high schoolers. They are visiting. They're on a visit. They're not on a tour. They're on a visit. A little bit from Greg Gard. Here's a 2-minute cut. We can pause it and react. I just want to listen to this.
The one thing I've noticed with this group, over the last, it shows in the final ledger of games over these last 3 or so, but really the last 30 days or so, how they're growing together. I think our chemistry, not that it was bad, but we just hadn't had time together and hadn't had time in adversity together. And I think that's where you find out how much you have to grow. And credit this group for, we haven't been perfect by any stretch, but we have grown in our connectiveness and in our collective fight. And I think that's one thing, as I've always told them, you're not going to play perfect. You're going to make mistakes, but if you have a competitive edge to you and a togetherness to you, you can overcome those situations. So obviously, happy with the end result. I think that obviously Minnesota's played some really good basketball here of late. They're really hard to win here. I just contributions, obviously Carrington coming back here. His numbers speak for himself. That Nolan, gutted it out when Belauskas got in foul trouble. Felt we had to play small just with the Princeton concepts and all the cutting and things. It's hard for young players to play against that. So I really lean on experience when it comes to guarding this type of stuff. Always have, going back to when Northwestern ran it. It's just it really tests your attention to detail. The first half, I thought we gave up way too much in the paint. I think 22 of their 36 were at the rim. Or 22 of their 35. Second half, I thought we were a little better with that. We were more active. We were more energized. We played harder. We were flying around, contesting things, and then got some momentum going offensively too.
I also think, I'm just going to pause it there. I also just think when this team has a couple threes go down, this is the danger of playing the danger of playing an offense that's completely and totally centered and focused around making threes. You can score fast and you can pour it on an opponent. And they did last night, and they did against Michigan, and they did against UCLA too. The concerning part, especially for this team, because I think Blackwell in games where the threes haven't been going has disappointed, and certain other players have as well. When the threes aren't falling, this team specifically gets caught looking around thinking, oh, well, I guess we got nothing. And it's hard to keep a certain edge on defense. You always talk with basketball coaches. You talk with high school coaches, college coaches, D3, D2, JUCO. You talk with NBA coaches. The hard thing is, and what every coach dreams of a team that defends and plays with the same level of intensity when the shots are falling and when the shots aren't falling. It's really hard to do that. It's human nature to not do that. So I think last night when they went on that 14-0 or 11-0 or 14-0 run, you saw the other parts of the game lock in a little bit more. So this team is reliant on threes to, sustain offense for sure. I wish they were a little bit less reliant on the 3-point shots to power everything. But again, that's human nature.
Getting inside the zone better than just playing above it in the first half. And then obviously make shots, and that creates a lot of energy. So happy with the win. And we need a day off. We've had this has been a heck of a 3-game grind. So we'll get some rest tomorrow and then use the last 2 days of the week to prep for Saturday.
So that's your Badgers basketball segment or two. I hope you enjoyed it. Tomorrow, I just want to give you a little Packers primer for something we're going to hit tomorrow before we get to Jesse Temple after this break. Justice Mosqueda is the guy that I go to a lot when I'm reading Packers stuff. And, we've referenced Bill Huber or Tom Silverstein. Justice Mosqueda is very often just digging up something statistical, something interesting. It's not that I don't want prose. It's not that I don't want a column or an opinion. I'll read that too. But he reminds me of Jack Stern, who covers the Brewers, where it's like, hey, here's why, Quinn Priester has had success with the Brewers. And it's like, he's used this pitch more. He's used this pitch less. He's getting more motion with this pitch and he's using it this frequency. Like there's something other than just the Brewers are playing well and they will need it. Like the column or the prose, I don't have any time for. Justice Mosqueda is written pretty extensively about the Packers funding and the pool of money they have to hire assistants. And today he has a story about all, 14 playoff teams and the outside experience they have on their coaching staffs, meaning how many years of experience do assistant coaches have on other staffs outside of the building. The most experienced team is Seattle, 129 combined years. The Packers are dead last at 47. Now, part of that is, Matt LaFleur, if you're promoting from within, that means you're developing good coaches. So that's not always a bad thing. To me, that can also signal that you're cheap. Is the assistant O-line coach really the best guy to promote up to wide receivers? Or should you be going outside the building for that? You know what I mean? And I think part of that, has probably bit the Packers a little bit. If we're talking about Butkus or Stenavich has leveled up like 3 times in the last couple of years. He was O-line, then he became OC. I don't know if he's the run game coordinator as well or who that is. So this is something that I want to get into more tomorrow. And I think it directly impacts, the Packers and the way they price their coaching hires directly impacts the way that Matt LaFleur's contract is being dealt with. And I'm not saying, the Packers should just give a $60 million extension fully guaranteed to Matt LaFleur. And if they want to fire him next year, fire him next year. I don't want Matt LaFleur to be fired after next year, regardless of contract, because that means we're in the same spot next year. I don't want that. So if that's what the Packers expect, then I would just rather cut bait now. Tomorrow we're going to get into this, the funding or lack thereof the Packers have at some of these position groups and some of these, assistant coaching jobs. I just find it very interesting. So we didn't get to that today because I wanted to get some Badgers basketball conversation in. We'll do that tomorrow. And Mike Clemens will join us. Maybe we could pick his brain about that as well. Jesse Temple going to join us next. The show tonight presented by La Crosse Beer House, corner of 3rd and Pearl in downtown La Crosse. It's the perfect place, the home base. If you're going out on the town, you're kicking around downtown. Of course, if you want a mug of authentic German beer, the Hofbrau and the Hefeweizen and the Stuffelweizen and the Pufty. I don't know beer very well. It's all delicious and it comes in a big fat mug. Get it with a pretzel or some of their pig wings or the fish fry. It's all delicious. It's the perfect spot. Right, again, corner of 3rd and Pearl, right down there in the thick of things. We appreciate their support of the show, whether it's going to spring training or the Super Bowl. They present Ryan Wood's appearances on Fridays as well. They present the show every Wednesday. La Crosse Beer House, corner of 3rd and Pearl, and like their Facebook page because they always have things going on down there. Jesse Temple, Badger Connect, joins us next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 5 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 4 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
The three on the way. It goes! Tyson! Now Blackwell for the win! Good!
Jesse. 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 Jesse.
If you're disappointed with the amount of Packers talk tonight, we did the first full hour on the Packers. So you can find that in the podcast, the Wisco Sports Zone app, wiscosportszone.com, or, well, wherever you get your podcasts, of course. So if you missed out on that, apologies. We'll do a lot more Packers stuff tomorrow. Mike Clemens will be here. But the Bill Michaels Huddle coming up tonight, and Mike Clemens will be in studio with Bill. So you have 2 more hours of Packers talk starting in, 23 minutes. So you can look forward to that. Mike, I think, might be on for the full first hour. I joked earlier, it's like Larry King. For the full hour, Mike Clemens will be Bill's guest in studio. So if you want more Packers talk, the first hour coming up in 25 minutes, we'll get to Bill's Huddle as well. But now Jesse Temple, Badger Connect, joins us. Enjoy. Jesse Temple is here, Badger Connect. You can follow his work there and hear him on the camp with Zach as well. I was listening to the camp. As a matter of fact, as I was making my lunch about a half hour ago, I've yet to finish this week's episode. So I'm about halfway through talking about some of the additions in the portal, and I want to get to that. I want to talk about basketball first. You have a Badger Bite out with Joe Krabbenhoft, so I want to get to that. Let's start with Saturday's win over Michigan. That was massive. I didn't see it coming, especially when the game started. They were down by a pile. My biggest gripe or my criticism with this team is I think they have talent, Jesse. They just haven't had this unifying thing or this unifying force. And Nick Boyd looks around and is almost as if to say, like, we need to lock in. We need to lock down, whether it's on defense or focus. And I just wonder if a win over Michigan like that can't be the exact thing that this team needs for all the individual pieces and individual good moments to kind of come together here in mid-January. That's my hope, at least. What was your takeaway from Saturday's win?
That it's been a heck of a week, and it started with the win against UCLA. Then you go and beat Michigan, and probably the best win by any team in college basketball this season, certainly on the short list. And then you follow it up with the extraordinary buzzer-beating win that John Blackwell has the 3 against Minnesota. Now you're on a 3-game winning streak. I think knowing how much talent there was, especially in the starting group, was what made it so frustrating for fans, and I'm sure for the staff and the players too. Because how do you explain losing by 28 to BYU and 30 to Nebraska? Those are good teams. I mean, Nebraska is having a season unlike any in program history. Having said that, if you're supposed to be an NCAA tournament level team, you don't go lose by 30, even if it's on the road to an unbeaten team. You're competitive. And I think that had been a struggle here as well. When Wisconsin got down, how competitive were they consistently? But they showed true fight and determination, especially in these last 2 games. To go to Michigan and trail 31-17, it looked like that could have gone out of hand in a hurry. You lose by 25. Same story as BYU or Nebraska. But they fought back. In that second half, if you take out your Badger fandom or reporter hat or whatever, you take that aside, that was one of the most entertaining halves of basketball all season. Both teams are just shooting lights out. It looked like NBA Jam where the Nets were on fire because they scored 50-plus points. And I didn't look at it as a situation like no one knows how to play defense. It was just extraordinary shot making at a super high level. And then, of course, Wisconsin backs it up with the huge win against Minnesota. And before the Michigan game, this is why I think that one's so important, Grant. They didn't have an NCAA tournament resume to speak of. Yes, had a winning record that looked nice. But when the committee evaluates all these teams and you put them in a pile, you say, well, where's the marquee win, or where are any good wins? They didn't have a quad 1 win yet. So it's just absolutely huge. And they're trending upward, which is what Greg Gard said to his team in the locker room after the game, that they demonstrated some fight and some things that they weren't necessarily showing 45 days ago.
I just think they needed a big – and look, every team in the country could use a road win like that. There's not a single team in college basketball that couldn't benefit from that win. But we see the individual talent, and in spurts, you see good offense, good defense. We're just kind of waiting for something to bring it all together. So my hope, and they won the game they needed to win against Minnesota last night. It was dramatic, but that's a tough place to go play. Not that it's borne out in the results, but all those games are always close. Just getting that win and keeping it going was important. Your Badger Bite at Badger Connect this week was with Joe Krabbenhoft, and I don't want you to give us all the goods because I want people to go watch it, but you teased last week that you learned so much sitting down, and you have such a much better understanding now of some of the changes and points of evolution that they have on offense because you poured over this film with Joe Krabbenhoft. So tell us about that and tell us what you learned.
There's no real way for me to give it away because I can't explain what you can see through video and listen to Joe Krabbenhoft discussed. It's great timing on this video that it happened to publish the day after this Minnesota win, and the fact the Badgers are on a 3-game winning streak. We shot this at the end of December, and we looked at the 2 most recent games at the time, which was a loss to Villanova, again, another frustrating performance by the Badgers, and then a blowout win against Central Michigan. But essentially what this video is the teach tape, what the coaching staff does, or Greg Gard and the rest of the staff, when they meet with players after a game. Well, let's go over X number of plays from the previous game, and we'll talk about some things we liked and some things we didn't like. And so it's great because it's not all, here's a dunk, here's an amazing play.
Highlights.
Right. You might have John Blackwell driving to the rim, and, here's him in good position, but he didn't finish. But this is what we want to see. Here's how we defended a play, and it wasn't what we wanted and ended up in 2 points for the other team. Now, here's a version of that same situation where we had team defense. And I've published a couple of these on my social media accounts so you can see the snippets of them. But part of what I really wanted to do with these Badger Bites videos was provide a window into coaches and players that you can't get anywhere else. And this is a great example of that. And then Joe Krabbenhoft is great. He's an associate head coach, obviously, and has a lot of trust under Greg Gard, so he knows what he's talking about.
Was there anything just specifically on Nick Boyd? Because I think his skill set for a team that wants to play with a higher pace offensively, did you notice some things like, oh, that's why a player like Nick Boyd was so coveted and this is what he adds to their offense maybe they haven't had recently?
It's one of the clips I posted from the video, and it was the first thing that we watched. But he gets a rebound. This is against Villanova early in the first half. He gets it out in transition, and then just kind of, he's a lefty, so I think that can throw people off, but he's super quick. He makes all these one-handed, left-handed passes that you don't always see coming, which was a problem when he first got here. I think they've adjusted. Perfect dish to Nolan Winter, who's running the floor, going right to the rim for a dunk. He's exactly what you need if you want to get out in transition. He's as quick of a guard as they've had, and obviously he's been a huge lift for this program.
So I want to talk football with you as well. Jesse Temple is here, Badger Connect. You did a really good job with Zach on the camp talking about all the individual commits or additions or whatever word you want to use since the last time you had recorded. There's a player from the FCS from Montana State, win a national title, and then days later, you're now a UW Badger, like that quickly. That's how college football works. Was there a player or two in this latest batch? We don't need to go through them one after another that you think is most important that we should spend a minute or two on.
Yeah, well, the player you're referencing, so he played for Illinois State. They played Montana State in the FCS National Championship game. Jake Anderson is a defensive lineman for them. Not the flashiest, sexiest position or name or school, but I had a chance to talk to him, and this is a dude who in 3 years there played 1,800-plus snaps, and because his team went so deep into the playoffs, he played 800-plus snaps on the interior for a national title-level team. 4 days later, he's at Wisconsin. Well, he lives on the Illinois-Wisconsin border, and he told his agent, if Wisconsin shows any interest, I want them to be at the top of the list. That's always nice if you're a program that the player is interested in your program first. Again, may not be the flashiest addition, but they absolutely needed help on the interior and the defensive line. That was probably the most remaining important position to fill, and they're still working on that. But all these guys have so much potential, and it's been really fascinating because Wisconsin went with a mixture of guys like Anderson, who've got 1 year left but have proven themselves, even if it's at a lower level. Not all of them were. Some were at the Power 4 level. And guys who've got 3 years of eligibility and were a top 15 four-star recruit in their class. Well, Jaden Lofton is another one of these recent additions. He's an edge player who was at Tennessee, was a four-star prospect. Wisconsin was very close in his recruitment and lost out. And I mentioned this to Zach on the camp, but I go back to something that new offensive line coach Eric Mateo said when we had a chance to talk to him recently. Sometimes it's not so bad to finish second in recruiting because those guys may not work out at the first school. They'll remember the relationship they developed with you, and then you can get them the second time around, and they're more developed or as a college player and closer to playing. So, I'm really impressed overall with the transfer portal class that they've brought together, but I'm not going to let that sway me to think that they're suddenly going to be a 9-3 team because we've seen what's happened the last 3 years. But they have had some very nice additions, and they've clearly attacked every position on offense and defense, which was necessary.
How important was it for them to get Charles Perkins back? Because he put his name in the portal, which I didn't expect, and now he announces that he's back. And you mentioned specifically that defensive line. So how important of a player in your eyes is he?
Statistically, it's not going to stand out, and even the snap count, and he was battling injury. I think he played something like 80 snaps a year ago defensively. But when you look at who they lost, it's a huge deal. All the guys who played 300-plus snaps are gone. Brandon Lane, Parker Peterson, Javier Suggs, Ben Barton. So you need somebody with some experience to step in, and I think he can have a major impact. Basically, the only guys who were left on the roster that played at all on the D-line were him and then Dylan Johnson. So I'm interested to see what this D-line looks like because they have added some pieces through the portal. And again, they're still looking maybe to add another piece if they can. But that was the biggest change Wisconsin made last offseason defensively. They knew that they were not going to be good enough to compete in the Big Ten if they didn't get more depth and if they didn't get bigger. And they executed that plan and had a top 20 or top 30 defense depending on the metric. So it's very important to get those kinds of players because they don't grow on trees and they're not easy to find through the portal.
A player that actually put their name in and maybe I've missed. Maybe they signed somewhere else. I haven't been tracking, but I wanted to ask you about this player, Emilio Agard, the corner, right? And you could tell me, well, Grant, they brought in better players or like maybe he's not that significant, but the process here interests me because he's the type of guy who plays a little bit when they're young and then probably expects, all right, you're going to develop this year as a redshirt freshman. He played 11 games, 3 starts. Next year you slide in, right? That's the thought process, right? And now I believe, I don't think he's signed anywhere else, but you'll have to help me out a little bit there. What happened there? Did Wisconsin bring in other guys that spooked him off? Did he not get money? Like, tell us why maybe that didn't work out like it should from one year to the next.
So I had a chance to talk to Emilio about this, and he had a lot of positive things to say about Wisconsin. And this is obviously according just to him, but initially he had the conversations just like you do in your exit meetings after the season with Paul Haynes, who at the time was his cornerbacks coach, someone who we really trust, has a good relationship with, and was told that they were going to bring in 2 cornerbacks from the portal. That at least was the plan. He was the most experienced returning cornerback that they had. You mentioned he started 3 games. He played 300 plus snaps, and so agreed to stay. Well, then they brought in Robert Steeples as the cornerbacks coach. Paul Haynes is still here. He's overseeing the secondary, but they also added 4 cornerbacks from the transfer portal. And so Emilio was looking at this situation, and, he's not saying somebody is to blame. He understands if you're going to have a position coach, you might want to bring in guys you have some familiarity with. Now, he said he did talk to Steeples after Steeples was hired, and Steeples said he really liked Agard's game. But Agard looked at this like, I was under the impression there were going to be 2 added, 4 have been added. I feel like this is disrespectful. Yeah, I believe I can compete for a starting job anyway, but I just don't like the way this situation went down, and I'm going to look elsewhere. And again, he didn't say that maliciously toward Wisconsin. He loved this place. He made really good friends. He understands that this is a business and they have to do what's best, but he also has to do what's best. So he's in a spot now where he entered the portal on January 12th. Now the portal window opened January 2nd, and I asked, well, were you worried about that? Because it's so late. And he's not worried at all. He said that the first day had been very good. He got 30 text messages from schools and lining some visits up to about 3 schools, and plans to pick that next school next week. But I think the interesting piece to all of this is, well, how can you be in the transfer portal? And the only way that would be possible if some sort of mutual agreement was made so that he could then go to the portal, and not privy to all those discussions. But I think we've seen some other situations where that didn't work out. So if you are actually in the portal and he went in on Monday, then it had to be in agreement on both sides to say, this is going to be able to happen.
Okay. I guess he's visiting Virginia tomorrow. I'm just looking because I wanted to ask you about how he came to end in the portal. I'm like, crap, did he sign somewhere? I don't think he announced to come back. I just wanted to talk about that process a little bit. Something that you and Zach talked about, 1 or 2 more football things. Do you think that Chris Brooks Jr., Eugene Hilton, Tyrell Henry, do you think that's a base that can work? Do you think with a stable quarterback situation that can be the base? And then some of these maybe lottery ticket types or other players that they brought in the portal can add around that base. But do you think that's a solid base the Badgers can start the season with and be okay?
It's hard for me to say because statistically, there's not been a lot of production. I think, Zach and I agree. We really like Eugene Hilton Jr., and he really stood out as a freshman early enrollee a year ago in spring ball. Now, he only had 8 catches for 91 yards, but I don't believe that's indicative of his talent. That might end up being as big of a transfer portal addition, if you want to call it that, as anybody else, because he went into the portal and was able to withdraw and come back to Wisconsin. Not a lot of numbers from Tyrell Henry and Chris Brooks Jr. I think Chris got some starting action a year ago. He's probably their best blocker. He's super physical. And Tyrell could be your top slot receiver. It's tough to judge everything based on last year because it's not like there was a quarterback who was able to consistently get those guys the ball. But I'm really curious to see what these 3 transfer portal wide receivers are able to do. The one who's most intriguing to me is Jalen Domingo. Now, he was at Southeastern Louisiana, so he was playing at a lower level, but put up massive numbers. Shamar Rigby had 25 catches at Oklahoma State. Can he elevate his game? And the most recent one is Malachi Coleman, who hasn't put up huge numbers, started his career at Nebraska and then went to Minnesota, only had 5 catches a year ago. He was a 4-star, I think, number 11 wide receiver in the country just a few years ago. So if you can harness that talent and get in the right position, maybe you can be more impactful. It's almost impossible to know, though, with that wide receiver group exactly what they have and how productive they're going to be. If you've got a healthy Colton Joseph, that will go a long way. So let us all pray.
Yeah. That's the basis for all of this. It's like, if the quarterback can be healthy, then we can, talk about a football team and judge the coaching and judge some of these other players. Before I let you go, what do you have coming up at Badger Connect this week? What can we look for?
Well, I had a conversation with Kelly Sheffield. If you think that the football transfer portal is wild, the volleyball transfer portal situation is even more insane. He's talked about this a bit a week ago. But that story is going to be up here this week. Also working on a piece on Alexis Bieliauskas and his path from Lithuania to Wisconsin. You want to talk about outstanding performers in that Michigan game, buried 5 threes and scored 17 points. And a whole lot more stuff on the way, including some football content. The portal window closes January 16th. The semester starts January 20th. So at some point, all the players that Wisconsin's bringing in will be done. And I'll evaluate, kind of recap who they got and where all those fits are. So that's just some of the stuff you'll see. I will lastly tease the next Badger Bites video. I've put myself in some very dumb situations. I know that I wrestled somebody and got pinned like 17 times. I attempted to be a goaltender on the ice, trying to stop Kirsten Sims, who is an Olympian for the U.S., tried to get some advice from Ava McNaughton, another Olympian. She's a goalie. It did not go well. I fell many times and embarrassed myself, but that will be next Wednesday as our next Badger Bites video.
Hell yeah, something for the hockey fans. Appreciate you, Jesse. We will talk next week. Thank you.
Thanks, Grant.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
You were here when I think teams were scared of the Packers and were scared to come into Lowe's. So what's changed? What's different now?
Is they have showed that they can be beaten in many different facets. And this is, and no guy wants to hear this. No guy inside that locker room. But they have showed they are a soft team when it comes to closing you out. You can beat them up. You can get over on them. Defensively, tell me they've had defensive victories. This past season, they did. We talked about it. Like, there you go. They got that close. But to be considered a closeout defense, you got to do it on the consistent. And they don't. They don't. We talk about all the time, complete game, complementary football, all that stuff. And when they get it, it's like surprising. You know what I mean? It used to be you had a defense that took the ball away and an offense that would just run you to death. And if you got behind, it was game over. That was it. It was game over. Now it's like, well, they get a big lead and then they hang on.
That was Bill earlier today, hour number 2. Go check the podcast. And you'll get more of that here in just a couple minutes. The Bill Michaels Huddle coming right up. Just on the idea, nobody's scared of the Packers anymore. The culture, they're not bad. They're just starting to feel like the Atlanta Falcons. It's like, yeah, you have some talent and you do some things well, but like, do we really take you seriously as a contender? More on that coming up on the Huddle. Let's take a call here before we wrap up. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Eric on I-90.
I figured this might be you, Eric. What's going on? Got about 2 minutes.
All right. Well, I'm really proud of you, Grant. Your maturity level through the years about these games has went up tremendously.
Oh, is that right?
Yes. This, if this would have happened 5-6 years ago, you would have been distraught for many days.
Yeah.
Many days.
Yeah. I think that also the more times I keep doing this, it doesn't affect me as much. On top of my wisdom and maturity, of course, to your point.
But that is just football wisdom and maturity. See, guys my age, we can go all the way back to the 70s in this type of disappointment.
Yeah.
And I really think it was over for you Broncos weekend. Broncos halftime, that's when you just put this thing down and you just said, this is over.
Yeah, I mean, I maintained stakes. I didn't think they wouldn't win again, for God's sake. Like, no, I didn't put them down like that. I thought the Super Bowl would be a long shot, like maybe we thought earlier in the year. But yeah, I think there's probably some truth to that.
I maybe came off like that was an insult, and I didn't mean it to be.
No, not at all. No, I didn't take it as one, Eric.
All right. Well, here's what we got going on in the NFC North. Is it's going to be a lot tougher to be that dominant team.
Well, yeah. No, absolutely, Eric. And I got to run. You mind if I take this to the finish line? Can we talk tomorrow?
Yeah, we can talk tomorrow. Take it to the finish line.
All right, Eric. The Packers, since they've won the division, to Eric's point, since they've won, all 3 of the other teams in the division has. This division's better than it was in 2019. So we'll talk about that tomorrow as well. Appreciate it, Eric. Sorry to cut you off. The Bill Michaels Huddle coming up next.